Coming out of high school, the subject of today's video was seen as a freak of nature, and if he could put it all together, could become one of the most dangerous players in college football and be a star on both Saturday and Sunday. That is how good he was, as he had all the potential in the world and was headed to Alabama. Unfortunately, his recruiting process would change, but he'd still end up at Texas and was seen as one of the future stars of that program. After a couple of years there, he would end up deciding to enter the transfer portal and went across the country to play for Lincoln Riley at USC. Many USC fans were extremely pumped about his potential there as well, but unfortunately, after 5 seasons, he is once again in the portal, and right now, his career has been seen as somewhat of a disappointment. He'll more than likely get another chance at another school, but in today's video, I want to highlight his career, go through how he got to this point, talk about what has happened at these 3 big-time programs, and what I think is going to happen to him next. But before we get started, be sure to leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you are new to the channel, turn on notifications, and let me know what player I should cover in my next What Happened To video. Now, let's go ahead and get started. So you're probably wondering who the subject of today's video is, and it is none other than former Texas and USC tight end Malcolm Epps. But in order to understand what has happened to Epps, we first need to go back in time. As I was researching for today's video, I couldn't find a ton of information on his early years, but he did grow up in the state of Texas and apparently took a liking to all sports and was super athletic and hardworking. You guys could probably figure that out already for yourself. Early on, Epps was seen as a freak of nature, and some referred to him as Grandpa Epps because they didn't believe he was born in 2000 and looked a lot older than he actually was. As he got more comfortable on the football field, it was easy to see how much potential he had if he could just put it all together. It would end up happening in his second year of high school at Duquesne High School in the suburbs of Houston, Texas. Just like his career, his numbers were up and down then. As a sophomore, he caught 21 catches for 364 yards and 5 touchdowns. As a junior though, his productivity plummeted as he caught just 10 passes for 129 yards. And this time, a lot would change for him. He went from a nobody to a Power 5 prospect, and then eventually committed to the best college football program in America, Alabama. He chose the Crimson Tide during their junior day over the likes of Texas A&M, LSU, and Florida State, and became one of the early commits of Nick Saban's 2018 class. Why Bama though? Well, he said it was because of school and football. He told them he was interested in the Tide's engineering school, and that Alabama was, quote, the top of the food chain, and there was nothing better than them. He said it was a dream come true, and he said that they liked that he had a great family, a great background, outstanding grades, and was a fun person to be around. He also was a very versatile weapon that, if he could put it all together, could be a star in Tuscaloosa. At the time, he was not ranked by 24/7 Sports, but that was sure going to change when the rankings updated, as he was quickly one of the top tight ends in the country, and his offer sheet proved that. Except, as I said earlier, that junior year was very interesting and made some people worry about him. How does an Alabama commit only catch 10 passes in a season in high school when he's 6'7"? That's a question I can't really answer, but his spark numbers didn't really help anything either. While he was there, he ran a 5.17 40-yard dash and only had a 24.5-inch vertical leap. He got a spark score of 54.21, which isn't really that impressive, but it was worth noting that right before then, he was in the middle of basketball season and had a game the night before. The craziest part of it all, though, was during that spark event, he decommitted from Alabama. He would decide to reopen his recruitment, dropping a top 10 schools of Texas, Texas A&M, Bama, Florida State, UCLA, Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, Florida, and Rice, an interesting last choice. The Longhorns and Aggies had even offered Epps a basketball scholarship as well, and a multitude of other programs also wanted him on the hardwood. But one school would quickly stand out. Texas was considered the favorite to land Epps after he decommitted, as he held all 15 crystal ball projections just a few weeks later. He also changed his Twitter profile picture to him in a Longhorns uniform, and he eventually put it all to rest and signed the dotted line. He said, quote, "There's no place like home. Vince Young is probably one of my favorite college quarterbacks, and Texas was the decision for my entire family." This would end up happening before his senior year, and he can now focus on his final football and basketball season. He said it was a great relief, and he could just focus on football and basketball, and he knew where he was going to go, and he was all in on Texas. Epps was a basketball star while he was there, as he averaged nearly 15 points and 10 rebounds, and was even offered a scholarship by Shaka Smart at Texas. I guess him and others would always wonder how he would have done on the basketball court, but he was best known for his 28-point performance in the postseason, where he had a buzzer-beater 3 to advance to the next round. He also played alongside future TCU basketball player Micah Peavy, and overall he had a great career there. Plenty of big-time basketball players have moved to tight end and have become stars on both Saturday and Sunday. Could Epps be the next one? Well, scouts thought it was possible. One said, quote, "At 6'7", Epps has excellent size, an ideal frame that can be easily built upon. He has a good understanding on how to use his frame and length to shield off defenders, and that along with a tremendous catch radius and big hands should allow Epps to develop into a dream red zone target at the next level. And considering his size, he'll have a 4 to 5 inch advantage over most cornerbacks and safeties, and he'll win his fair share of jump ball one-on-one situations." Basically, what scouts were saying is that if he could put it all together and translate his game to the college level, he could be an absolute superstar and someone that would be uncoverable. That's why scouts thought he was a huge deal, as according to 24/7 Sports, he was a 4-star player, the number 10 tight end, and the 227th best player in the class of 2018. So, how'd he end up doing at Texas? When Epps arrived at Texas, he was praised as the next great player, but he also would first need to develop. He ended up catching one pass in 2018 against Texas Tech, and he said that was a pivotal moment in his career, and he was ready to build upon it. In 2019, Epps would get a little bit of a bigger role, as he catch 20 passes for 232 yards and 2 touchdowns. This would end up being his best season of his college career, because in 2020, his production fell off. He ended up catching 3 passes for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns, but it's pretty obvious by looking at that stat line, he just wasn't getting a lot of reps or a lot of opportunity on the field. Because of that, he decided to enter the transfer portal, and he went over to USC. He had an opportunity to play under Clay Helton for a couple of games, and both Keaton Slovis and Jackson Dart would be his quarterback. USC had a disappointing season, and Epps did as well. He ended up finishing with 10 catches for 173 yards and 1 touchdown. Except, going into 2022, they would have a major change in Southern California. Lincoln Riley would leave Oklahoma for USC, and he brought with him a lot of guys from Texas. Texas running back Keontae Ingram and safety Xavier Alford also transferred to USC, and 2 Texas assistants and the Longhorns director of recruiting also came with him to USC. Epps had the talent and the opportunity to save his career at USC, but he'd be battling against some really good players. He said it was the best tight end group in America, as he said, quote, "You can't show me 4 or 5 tight ends better than us. Every day you get to come with your A game, because if you mess up, that could be that guy taking your spot. The depth chart is always changing up and down, so you gotta bring your A game every single day." Epps would battle it out all offseason and during the season for reps, but just like 3 out of the last 4 seasons, he just couldn't seem to get on the field a ton. He only ended up catching 3 passes for 18 yards, but he did have 2 touchdowns. The one thing I will give him credit for is he had a ridiculous amount of touchdowns for the very little amount of catches he had in his career. He ended up having 7 touchdowns on only 37 catches. That's pretty good numbers. It showed he obviously was a mismatch and had the talent to be great, but he just couldn't get on the field, which is why he has decided to enter into the portal for the second time. Unfortunately, Epps has not been able to make it work at either Texas or USC, but I think he'll be a great addition for whatever school picks him up next. I assume he'll probably try to go down a level, as maybe he'll go to one of those Texas schools in the area, or maybe a school like SMU, Houston, Texas Tech, or TCU takes a flyer on him. He obviously has the physical ability and potential to be a monster in the red zone, and any college program could use a player like him. He's also seen and been through a lot, so he's probably a battle-tested player, and I'm definitely excited to see where he ends up. Epps has had quite the college journey, and his story isn't over quite yet, but so far, his career has been a little bit of a disappointment, but he'll have another season to change that narrative, and he could find himself in the NFL if he puts it all together. But what do you guys think? If you're a Texas or USC fan, what do you think of Epps? Where do you think he could land next? And what's another player I could take a look at in my next video? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace. Thank you.